Hi. In this video we're going to take a look at an example file that we want to cut. So I'm just opening up RhinoCAM right now, and I have this file that I've already, this object that I've already prepared, which is a kind of a wavy surface. First thing I'm going to do is move this using my end snap to the origin, so I'm just going to type 0, and that places it at the origin, XYZ positive. Next thing I want to do is take a look at my options here. A couple of things I want to do. Under the mesh, I'm going to set this to smooth and slower, and then under units I want to make sure that that's set to inches. If it's not, I can select it from there. Now I want to create my stock. I need to define this stock that I'll be using, and I'm going to assume for this project that we're going to be machining in foam, styrofoam 2-inch thick. So there's a number of different ways that I can define my stock, and in the last video I showed how to use an offset to create an offset so it's slightly larger than the object, which will allow the program to calculate what it needs to remove to sort of extract the part from the shape. The problem with this technique is that once you've generated stock this way, there's no way to tell exactly how high the stock is in the program. There's no way to snap to that because it's a kind of a virtual object. So the way I prefer to do this is to create a bounding box first from my geometry. So if I select it and go to Analyze Bounding Box, that creates a box in the XYZ axes. And I'm going to, under my Layers section, I'm going to create a layer that's just called Bounding Box. And I'm going to change that over to that layer there so that I can hide it afterwards. And now I can go back in here and select stock from selection. Now if I just run the command like this, it'll tell me that I need to select something before I run that command. So I actually select the bounding box and then stock from selection. And if I hide this bounding box and turn on my stock, you can now see the stock is created from that bounding box. You'll also note that that this is not parametric, so if I move my stock, my bounding box rather, the stock doesn't follow it. In this case though, what I actually want to do is I'm going to move hide my geometry for a second. What I want to do is I still want that offset, but I want a little bit more control at this point. So what I'm going to do is go into Solid Edit Tools, Faces, Move Face, and it's asking me to select the surfaces to move. So I want to move this again using my end snap. I'm going to snap from the end here, and I'm going to specify a certain distance, let's say 0.2, and you'll also notice that I have the option of going in or out from my original. So I want to move out, and I want to do that for all 4 sides. And finally, I want to do that for the top of this as well. Now, again, I said that I have a 2-inch piece of foam. So if I looked in one of my side views, snapped from the bottom, and type 2, that gives me a 2-inch tall reference. And when I go back in and move my face, this top face, from this, I can just snap it to the end, and I know that I'm at 2. Okay, so my stock is still where I originally set it, which is right there, and you can see the offset that I've created from that. I'm going to just sort of redefine my stock now from selection, and I can do it from here as well. And that's now set to this new box that I've created around my part geometry. Okay, so I have an offset of 0.2 all the way around, and then it moves up to 2 inch at the very top. At this point I could go back to my default layer. I'm going to turn off the bounding box that I had used, and I'm also going to hide the preview of the stock. Now I need to create some tools, and the first tool that I want to create is going to be a flat tool. It's going to be a 1/4 inch. And what I want to do at this point is rough out the majority of the material. So if I go into Create and then Horizontal Roughing, move over to Cut Parameters, and in here I'm going to define a couple things. The cut direction, I'm going to use Climb Cut, which will determine which direction the cuts happen in, and also going to use part offset facing. Under tool diameter, I'm going to set this to 75% of the diameter, and again keep in mind this is for foam, so if I were doing this with MDF or something even harder than that, I would want to make sure that I was a little bit more conservative. The cut levels, I'm going to do about 75% of the tool diameter as well. And generate. And when I'm done, you can see the layers here as I cycle through. There's a few stragglers at the very end, and I'm not really going to worry too much about those. So that'll give me what I want. Now I want to know how much time this is going to take to machine. So if I right click on the operation itself and select information, this will tell me 22 hours. Okay, that's because I haven't set my feed rate yet. So I'm going to click OK on that. I'm going to just double click this again, and under feeds and speeds, this is where I'm going to want to set my my speeds differently. And rather than do everything manually, I'm going to say load from table, and under spindle speed, this is a larger tool. It's a 1/4 inch tool, so I'm going to set this to 12,000 RPM. So set the RPM first, and then my cut feed, I'll leave that at 120, which is the maximum that the roll-in mill will machine at. I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice that all the various different speeds, or feed rates rather, have been adjusted according to that cut feed rate. So if I hit generate again, and then go under information, 41 minutes, that's a lot more manageable. So click OK on that. Now at this point, I may want to restrict things a little bit further. You can see that there's some areas here where it seems like the cutter is going further out than it needs to for what I want. So one way to restrict things is to give an operation a region to work within. So if I turn back on my bounding box for a second, and I let's say I extract a top edge from the box, so curve from objects, duplicate face border, that will give me a closed curve. And if I were to restart this this operation, under machining features and regions, it says select machining regions, select curves as regions. So if I click on that, I can now select that curve, and when I hit generate, you'll notice these outlying areas have been restricted a little bit better within that area. So that's just one way to sort of determine where things are going to happen. Note that this curve is now parametrically linked to that operation, so if I were to move that curve or delete it, the feature would fail, and I would have to regenerate it. So it's best to really leave that curve there once you've done that. So now if I want to take a look at what I have so far, I go under Simulate, and that looks okay. I'm going to just notch this down a little bit and hit Simulate. And that's essentially what we have with our 1/4 inch flat tool. Okay, so I'll see you at the next video.